Hello, and welcome back to the Going Off Track podcast. I am Kathryn, and that was a very exciting F1 Academy weekend, especially since we haven't had F1 Academy for quite a few weeks, what with the whole Saudi Arabia cancellation. But anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss a video all season long, and so I can continue to inflict my motorsport opinions upon the greater population. And if you're listening on your preferred podcast platform, please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Now, these three races were all very exciting in their own ways, but of course I have to talk about the thing that bothers me, which is how they decided the grid for the opening race, which we had 3 races because of the Saudi Arabia cancellation. So this weekend and coming up in Austin were 3 races where you have the opening race, the reverse grid race, and the feature race. And the problem, and this is a problem that we have discussed plenty on the podcast, but if you're new to this, let me refresh you, which is that when they decided the starting grid for the opening race, they decided to use the second fastest qualifying time. So the feature race grid is set by your fastest qualifying time. The second fastest qualifying time is your opening race time, which is all well and good, except there's never all that much difference between the feature race quali and the opening race quali, which in fact, the drivers for the top 10 in both races, identical. The placements are a tiny bit different, but it's still the same drivers. And yes, we had a lot of intrigue, and you can overtake a lot easier in F1 Academy than in the bigger F1 cars, but I don't like that. There's got to be a better way. I know that they can't shoehorn another qualifying session in because the timing with all of the other feature races is something that you have to take into account for. But the qualies were basically the same. The first qualifying was, and I'm just going to read you the top 10s, was Palmowski, Westcott, Bruce, Felbermayr, Paatz, Larsen, Ferreira, Countryman, Gateman, and Billard. The second qualifying was Palmowski, Bruce, Westcott, Felbermayr, Paatz, Ferreira, Larsen, Billard, Countryman, Gateman. So the amount of difference, like in the top 4 for both races, the only difference was P2 and P3. There really wasn't a lot of difference. Of course, this will only be a problem in one more race weekend this season in Austin, but I just don't like it. And I'm glad that I'm glad that the races aren't set by both of them anymore like they used to be, not last season but 2 seasons ago. But there's gotta be a better way, especially if we're going to have more race weekends where we're going to have these opening races. But overall, we had 3 very exciting races. Race 2 was incredibly chaotic. They kept throwing out penalties like candy. And race 3 was surprisingly clean for the fact that it had rained right before race start, which shocking in F1 Academy, mostly because F1 Academy is a lot more prone to things like crashes and safety cars and that type of race delaying drama. The biggest part of the weekend was Alisha Palmowski, the Red Bull driver, was incredibly dominant all weekend long. She won the opening race by 10.1 seconds, which broke former Ferrari driver Maya Vug's record of about 8 seconds, and won the feature race by 10.95 seconds, breaking her own record one day later. She came out of the weekend, including her pole positions, with 53 total points, and now is up to 78 total on the season as we go into the back half of 2026. And now, does this mean that this season is over? Palmowski is the name of the game, kind of like Abby Pulling was. We knew Abby Pulling was going to be the champion. It was just kind of a matter of when. I don't think so. She does have a 25-point advantage, but when you have another race weekend like Austin coming up, where just from racing, not including pole and fastest lap, you can come out of that weekend with a total of 60 points. That is a massive swing. So coming out of the weekend with 53, she didn't have a great time in the reverse grid race. She and her teammate kind of crashed into each other, so she didn't finish. But there is still a lot that can be done, but Palmowski is heading to the championship. She is really wanting it, and she's definitely one of the front runners, which if you go to my Canadian Grand Prix preview episode, very interesting where she stacked up with the fan vote, which went to Alba Larsen, who did not have nearly as good of a weekend, which is really unfortunate for her and the Ferrari. But Emma Felbermayr, who had been the championship leader going into the weekend, didn't really have a great performance. She only scored 4 points in the first 2 races, though she did recover with a P2 in the feature race. So I wouldn't count her out, even though she's 25 points back, but she is very capable and very racy. And then we had a big surge from rookie driver Megan Bruce, who is in her second F1 Academy weekend of her career. She went from 2 points in the championship after China, where she was not very relevant to the storylines, to 37 total points. She had 2 podiums, a P2 in the opening race and a P3 finish in the feature race. She got overtaken late by Felbermayr, or it probably would have been a pair of P2s. And she also had a couple of points that she got out of the reverse grid race by finishing P7. So Megan Bruce could be in the running for Rookie of the Year, which, if we remember last year, was Ella Lloyd, with Alisha Palmowski being the vice Rookie of the Year as the second most successful rookie on the grid. And not only did she have a really solid weekend, but she is also currently P3 in the championship with 37 points. And there is a pretty big log jam behind Palmowski, behind Felbermayr. There's a lot of drivers with like the 30-something points, so we're going to see a lot of movement there. But right now it's Megan Bruce, which is very exciting to see out of a rookie who's, pretty brand new to the academy. Speaking of other rookies, Mathilda Paatz, who is the Aston Martin driver, is doing the best out of all of the Aston Martin drivers. They're having a great time at F1 Academy. She got Aston Martin's first win in the reverse grid race. She also had a P3 in the opening race and then P5 in the feature. So really solid weekend for another rookie. She's currently P5 in the championship after scoring no points in the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. So pretty big deal. Now, moving on, we had a little bit more of a mixed bag of a weekend for Peyton Westcott, who is the Mercedes driver. She had a P3 in the reverse grid race and a P4 in the feature race. She's still holding on to P4 in the championship thanks to a podium that she got in China, but she definitely did get overtaken a little bit by some of the other drivers, including Emma Felbermayr, who was able to get past Westcott. So Westcott has some work to do. Other big bummers of the weekend, Rafaela Ferreira, who drives the Racing Bulls car, she got dinged with a jump start penalty after leading all of the reverse grid race. And the penalty actually came down on her after they had started the final lap of the reverse grid race. So it was very much I don't know if she got notified after the race until the race actually ended. It was the decision was made so late, which was really interesting. And speaking of late decisions, about 4 hours after the race, the F1 Academy announced a number of penalties, including Alba Larsen, who had finished P2 in the reverse grid race, and that knocked her out, I believe, to P11. So she went from having a meh weekend to having another really bad weekend, and that's also knocked her way down in the championship standings. I think she's currently in P9. Yeah, she's currently in P9. And this did promote the youngest driver in F1 Academy, Kaylee Countryman, who's actually local to Phoenix. I think she's from Chandler, which would be that way. But she was promoted to P2. She had her first podium, another podium for Haas, which we're probably not going to see in F1 anytime soon, though. Ollie Behrman, if there's someone who can do it, it's probably Ollie Behrman. But yeah, Alba Larsen, that was a really difficult weekend for her. She has so much potential, so much expectation, but this was another bummer for her. So she's P9 in the championship by a big distance, especially, from the likes of Palmowski up in the front. Wildcard driver this weekend also didn't have the greatest of times. Autumn Fisher, she's P16 in the opening race, P14 plus some penalties in the reverse grid race, and P18, which is last in the feature race. So not the greatest of showings for the wildcard driver, which is unfortunate because we love having the wildcard drivers come in and be highlights, like every wildcard driver who's a wildcard in Zandvoort. So anyway, we'll see. But it was a really exciting race week. If you're not already following along in F1 Academy, I highly recommend that you do, especially as the season and the series continues to grow and the drivers continue to reach more potential. But there is a female F1 driver somewhere. I don't know if it's somewhere on this grid, but it's somewhere that is going to come through F1 Academy at some point. It's going to be exciting. But the season is also going to be really exciting as the fight continues because Felbermayr is not done. Palmowski looks solid right now, but will she be able to last that throughout the season? She is, I will say, the first driver since Abby Pulling in 2024 to win 2 races on the same weekend. Abby Pulling did that in 2024 in Abu Dhabi after she had wrapped up the championship. She won another race. So it'll be very interesting to see if she's going to be able to continue pulling out these types of race finishes. Coming up next for F1 Academy, they are going to be in Silverstone in July, so we're not going to see them in action for a few more weeks. I know we had a big gap, but that gap was not intentional, but we're going to have another gap. We will see them in July. And coming up next for F1 and the Going Off Track podcast, we will have our Monaco predictions out in 2 weeks, the week of Monaco. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for going off track with me, and I will see you in the next one.